The flames of Aurelian Prime were not ordinary fire. They burned blue and white, fed by ruptured plasma conduits and the dying heart of a city-sized reactor. Towers of crystal alloy melted like wax, collapsing into rivers of molten light that carved glowing scars across the royal capital. The sky itself had turned the color of ash and lightning, torn open by orbital bombardment and emergency shields flickering on their last reserves. Inside the solar palace, alarms screamed in a dozen alien languages. Princess Lyra Vathar, heir to the Aurelian throne, ran barefoot across a collapsing bridge of gold-veined stone. Her ceremonial robes were torn, her breathing ragged. Behind her, the royal guard lay scattered, some unconscious, some very still, felled not by enemy blades, but by the Inferno swallowing the palace from within. The enemy had never breached the walls. The fire came from betrayal. A faction within the empire had sabotaged the core during the Queen's summit, hoping to erase the royal bloodline in a single, glorious explosion. Lyra stumbled as a shockwave rocked the corridor. The bridge ahead cracked, glowing fissures racing across its surface. She screamed as the floor gave way. And then, strong hands seized her wrist. A human's hands. Lyra looked up through smoke and heat, her golden eyes wide with disbelief. He was clad in scorched black combat armor, insignia burned away. His helmet was gone, dark hair plastered to his forehead with sweat and soot. One side of his face was bloodied, but his grip was iron. "Don't look down," he said, voice steady despite the chaos. "I've got you." With a roar of effort, Captain Elias Rourke hauled the alien princess back onto solid ground just as the bridge collapsed entirely, vanishing into a storm of plasma below. Lyra stared at him, stunned. A human?" she whispered. Elias didn't slow. He pulled her to her feet and shoved a breathing mask into her hands. "Put that on. Now." The Inferno. Elias Rourke had not come to Aurelian Prime as a hero. Humans rarely did. He was part of a United Terran Protectorate envoy, technically a security consultant, though most of the galaxy simply called humans useful when things went wrong. He had been stationed outside the palace, watching diplomats posture and smile, when the ground trembled and the sky turned blue. His comms exploded with warnings. Reactor breach. Internal sabotage. Evacuate. And then he heard one more transmission. A panicked royal frequency, half garbled by interference. Princess Lyra trapped, East Wing, bridge failing. Most soldiers would have retreated. Most species did. But humans had a reputation for running toward disasters. Elias sprinted into the palace as flames erupted through the ceiling. He lost 2 escort drones, then his helmet, then any clear sense of direction. He navigated by instinct, pain, and the distant sound of a young woman screaming. Now, dragging the princess through a collapsing corridor, he felt the heat biting into his armor, alarms warning of critical failure. "Why?" Lyra gasped as they ran. "Why would you come inside?" Elias didn't look at her. "Because someone needed to," he said. They reached a junction where the ceiling collapsed entirely, cutting off the escape route. Plasma fire surged across the floor like a living thing. Lyra froze. "No one can cross that," she whispered. "It will incinerate you." Elias activated the last remaining power in his suit, rerouting everything into a single forward shield. "Stay behind me," he said. He charged. The flames slammed into him like a physical force. Warning screamed in his ears. His armor blistered. The shield flickered, failed, reignited. Pain became everything. But he did not stop. On the other side he collapsed to one knee, coughing smoke and blood. Lyra stared at him in horror. "You're burning," she said. Elias forced himself upright. "Not dead yet." He grabbed her hand again. "Run." The Queen watches. High above the capital, aboard the royal evacuation cruiser, Queen Seraphel Vathar watched the palace burn. Her expression was carved from stone, but her claws dug into the armrest of her throne. She had already lost half her court. Her empire was bleeding. Then a new feed appeared, security footage rerouted from a damaged palace node. It showed a human soldier emerging from the flames, carrying Lyra in his arms as the structure behind them collapsed in a cataclysmic explosion. The queen leaned forward. Identify that human, she ordered. An aide hesitated. Majesty, he is not part of the royal guard. He is Terran. Name, Elias Rourke. Rank, Captain. Seraphel's eyes narrowed. A human. Of all species. The feed showed Elias shielding Lyra with his own body as debris rained down, taking impacts that would have killed most Aurelians instantly. The queen said nothing. But something ancient stirred behind her gaze. Aftermath. Elias woke in a medical chamber that smelled of antiseptic and unfamiliar air. His entire body hurt. No, he tried to sit up, instantly regretted it. Easy, a soft voice said. Lyra sat beside the bed. She had been cleaned, bandaged, her royal markings restored. But her eyes were different now, quieter, heavier. You saved me, she said. Elias managed a weak grin. Part of the job. She shook her head. No, it was not. He noticed then the burns along his arms, the medical braces, the slow hum of advanced alien healing tech. How bad is it? He asked. You will live, she said. That is uncommon given what you endured. Humans are stubborn, he muttered. Lyra smiled faintly, then grew serious. My mother wishes to see you. The decree. The throne room had survived. Barely. Charred pillars lined the hall, emergency lights casting long shadows. Nobles and military commanders filled the space, whispering as Elias was escorted forward, still limping, still bandaged. At the far end sat Queen Seraphel Vathar. She studied him for a long moment. Then she stood. Captain Elias Rourke, she said, her voice echoing through the hall. You entered a dying palace. You crossed the Inferno. You placed your life beneath my daughter's without hesitation. Elias swallowed. Yes, your majesty. In our culture, the queen continued, such an act creates a life debt. The hall went silent. Lyra stiffened. The queen turned to her daughter, then back to Elias. Therefore, Seraphel declared, by ancient law and royal authority, I order that you will be bound to the princess. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Elias blinked. Mem, bound how exactly? The queen's eyes glinted. In marriage. The silence shattered into chaos. Human objection. This is insane, Elias said later, pacing a private chamber. Insane, he repeated. I'm a human officer. She's an alien princess. Our governments will lose their minds. Lyra watched him calmly. You did not hesitate, she said. About the fire, Elias replied. Not about this. She stepped closer. Do you regret saving me? He stopped pacing. No, he said quietly. Then understand this, Lyra said. My people believe bonds forged in fire are unbreakable. My mother does not make symbolic decrees. Elias exhaled slowly. Figures, he muttered. Save a princess, end up married. Despite herself, Lyra laughed. War and union. The attempted coup failed, but war followed. The traitor faction fled into the outer systems, rallying fleets. Aurelian Prime stood on the brink of civil war. And standing beside Princess Lyra, now formally betrothed, was a human captain who refused to leave. Elias trained royal forces in human combat doctrine. He coordinated Terran logistics. When enemy fleets arrived, it was human unpredictability combined with Aurelian precision that broke them. The galaxy watched in shock as the Empire stabilized. Not through fear, but through unity. The ending. The wedding was held 1 year later. No flames. No alarms. Only light. Elias stood beside Lyra beneath a sky rebuilt, wearing a uniform bearing both Terran and Aurelian symbols. Queen Seraphel addressed the crowd. From fire came ruin, she said. And from ruin came choice. Today we bind two worlds, not by conquest but by courage. Lyra took Elias's hand. You still think this is insane? She whispered. He smiled. Yeah, he said. But I'd charge into that inferno again. The galaxy would remember the day a human ran into the fire. But history would remember something greater. That sometimes one act of fearless defiance could rewrite the fate of empires.